I will make a start. Or should I wait? Wait. Yeah. 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 So I think I will start the session. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining this morning session. I hope you had a nice coffee break and good discussion in the break. I guess still some people will wander in a couple of minutes. My name is Gyöngyi Horváth. I'm from Terena. Terena is the sister organization of Nordnet. And this morning session, we will talk about a variety of innovative aspects on the business side of community collaboration. Our first speaker is Kristin Selvag. She's the program manager from Uninet and responsible for their community cloud program, Sky. The aim of the program is to build a community cloud for the higher education and research for Norway. And Kristin has a master's degree in technology management from the Norwegian University of Science and Technology. Kristin, the stage is yours.
It's here, but not there. It's here, it's not. I have no idea.
Sorry, can you ask for some help, please? Sorry for the interlude. Like a couple of minutes ago, we just tested everything and everything was running smooth, but now the cable seems to be a little bit out of contact.
No technicians in the audience to help out? Everyone is in the other session? I have no idea. Okay. I'll start without this, and then we'll see what happens. I have it, so I know what to say, hopefully. So I'll start by saying good morning to everyone, and welcome to the session. or to my talk. Thank you for inviting me to talk today about, it's very small, so maybe I don't have it either, about the joint effort that we have on a cloud initiative for the higher education community in Norway.
2 seconds.
Okay, I'll just start giving you a little bit of information on the background on why are we doing this in a joint effort for a cloud service provider for the higher education in Norway. I think the initiative came from Uninet, the Norwegian NREN, towards the CIO, so for the largest universities in Norway, taking an initiative, asking them, about this cloud paradigm, what they're thinking, maybe we should collaborate on doing something together towards the community in Norway, and of course they were positive. They saw the possibilities also with cloud services, and they really wanted to do something in collaboration. And they very early on, this was before my time, so I'm citing something that I've only heard as almost rumors, but very early on they actually had some sort of letter of intention of what they were going to do together. And
carry on.
Okay. They agreed on that they wanted to utilize cloud services in a common way to enhance the positive sides or aspects of cloud services, because of course there are positive aspects, but also to, thank you.
Welcome.
But also to reduce the negative aspects, because they saw some negative aspects. I will get back to that later in my presentation. And also, their intention was in this collaboration was to secure that they had the integration between the cloud services, the commercial services, and the services, the common services that they had locally within the community. So that's the 4 universities, the 4 large universities, the CIOs, and Uninet collaborated on this with this intention. Of course, there were other reasons for doing this, and the most obvious one, of course, is cloud in itself, with all the benefits that the cloud promises, I'd say. They want to take the advantage of those benefits. So that's obvious. It's also obvious that an NREN is suited to be a cloud service provider for the community. So obviously that was a good reason to do this as well, and in collaboration. But there were other reasons for collaborating on this. As I told you, the CIOs, they of course acknowledge the potential and the benefits with cloud. But they really wanted to have control of the usage of cloud services, because they saw that their users really embraced the cloud and the cloud services. All the users are using lots of cloud services already. The IT departments and the CIOs, they could never offer the same kind of volume and the same kind of diversity of services to their community. So they didn't want to stop their users from using cloud services, but they wanted some control on this. You're familiar with the legal aspects and the security aspects on this. So they wanted to put some control on it, and that's quite a big task, and they want to collaborate on putting the mechanisms in place so that they can use the cloud services, commercial cloud services, as well as others. And also, there is more and more focus on cost and cost efficiency also among the universities and higher education in Norway. So collaboration would also lead to cost efficiency for the the IT departments. That's the CIOs looked at that as positive as well, because they want to share and divide. They want to share knowledge, they want to share solutions, facilities, whatever, to make it more cost effective. They also want to divide responsibility between them. So if the University of Oslo is very good at delivering one service, they could do that to the whole community, so the others didn't have to put effort or resources into delivering the same to their community. And then another university, for instance, in Tromsø, northern Norway, they could take responsibility for a different service. So they wanted to collaborate on this, to have both specialization so that they could be good at delivering a service, but also so they don't have to do the same, everyone. So that's a reason for collaboration. As for Uninet, we, of course, wanted to meet the demands and the wishes from our customers. Uninet, we already have a substantial cloud service portfolio for our community. We're already, of course, delivering a lot of networking services and services connected to that. But we're moving further and further up in the stack of services, delivering procurement services, delivering administrative systems, delivering even services very close to teaching and learning. So we're moving upwards in that stack and developing quite a substantial service portfolio, service catalog. But that's for mostly for the smaller institutions in Norway, because the big universities, they have big IT departments and they are able to produce and deliver services to their institutions on their own. So, and we wanted to collaborate with these IT departments because we know that they have the skills, the knowledge, the resources, the facilities that might be sort of a driving engine for this common cloud provider that we want to build. So we welcomed a collaboration with the universities and also a collaboration between the universities themselves. Now, I have to say that I was a bit worried. Would it be possible for these 4 CIOs to agree on what are we going to do and how are we going to do this? I've heard this a couple of times earlier in the conference that the universities are quite different, and they are also in Norway. I mean, we have 4 CIOs that are different personalities. They have different strategies. They come from universities with different history, with different culture and different tradition, and they are spread geographically around from north to south in the country. So how will they agree on doing something together and in the same way? I was worried. I was worried. Discussing and ending up with sort of an objective for our work, a common understanding of how we will do this and what we are going to do, that was fairly easy. We didn't have lots of discussions. We very soon concluded on what says up here, that UHSI, this common cloud service provider, is supposed to facilitate cost-effective common cloud services to the community in Norway, to all the institutions. And we're going to do this in collaboration, and it's going to be managed by Uninet. Uninet is going to coordinate this because we already have that kind of role in the community. So this they agreed on. This was, not very controversial. And they even added something, and that came from the CIOs, because they said that further on, we see that all the common services that the community has should be delivered through this joint cloud service provider. So that's bringing it even further and not just looking at the cloud services. So that was some of the background. I'm not going to talk about innovation specifically. I'm just very short diversion and reflection on innovation, because what I see in the work that we're doing, there are several levels of innovation in the work we're doing. We need to use innovative collaboration models if we're going to reach our objectives. We have to work together and collaborate in new ways. We also have to develop and manage a common business model or payment model, whatever we want to call it. But, and this business model that we have to agree on, which will be a new way to collaborate in itself, it has to be cloud-based, because we want to take benefits from cloud and cloud computing. Then we have to look into what is actually a cloud-based business model, and that's new. This is not knowledge and skills that we have already within the community, so we have to build this knowledge. and then agree on how to do it. And of course, we want to develop innovative cloud services specific for our community. That's also one part of it. So there's innovation on many levels. Now getting back to what did we actually do, what have we done? Because I want to tell you what did we plan to do and how did we approach this, how did we do it? The first joint effort that this group of the 4 CIOs and UNINET did, and this was also before I started, they all pitched in with resources from their own institutions, skilled people with knowledge about the community and the challenges in the community, and they wanted them to look into what is actually cloud computing and what can it do for the community. And they also had to look at what are the challenges for higher education in Norway, and how can ICT be a support to reaching the objectives and meeting the challenges for higher education in Norway. And then they wanted this group to come up with some recommendations as to what to do, how are we going to approach building a common service provider, for a cloud service provider for the community. They came up with several recommendations, of course. I will talk about just the 2 of them, the 2 last ones on this slide. The first one they also recommended. I won't talk a lot about that because they said establish this service provider, hire a manager, and that's me. I'm the only one hired in this organization. I'm the only one dedicated to this organization. So they did what they followed that recommendation. They also followed these other 2 recommendations because the report, they said that we have to establish a community cloud with an infrastructure service as a platform so we can put the cloud, it's fundamental because we have to put the cloud services on this infrastructure service to provide it to the community. And it's also fundamental for moving or migrating existing services onto this platform and delivering it to the community. So they said the first do that, establish a community cloud infrastructure service, and also get started on portfolio development and management. Those were the 2 recommendations. There were several more, but I will talk about these just to show you how we're working. Use them as examples on how we're working. Okay, so what did we actually do? We decided we wanted to, and again, that was actually a recommendation from the report. We wanted to use expert groups. We wanted, because this is a traditional way of collaborating within NRENs and between NRENs and within academia in general, these expert groups, people interested in the same discipline, gathering together, exchanging knowledge. So that's a familiar way of working. We wanted to use that, and we also wanted to have a project model. We wanted to work in projects so that we could actually get something done. So we could plan, we want to do this, and we want to do it within this time frame, and it will cost this much, and it will need this much man-hours. So we wanted to be very specific also, so that we could get something done. We established an expert group on infrastructure as a service, and also one on looking at legal and security aspects, because that will be important for the portfolio management. Both of these groups, and we also established 2 projects. One project for the infrastructure service to establish that one, hopefully having one up and running early 2015. And we also established a project for portfolio management, hoping to have sort of a policy document or a guideline where we could find some common agreements on how we were going to do the selection, the certification, how we were going to do the payment model, how we were going to deliver, how we were going to support the services that we were delivering through UHC. Now, populating the expert groups, that was easy, as it is always with these expert groups, in my experience, because these were expert groups within disciplines that people already in the institutions worked with this already. So when we sort of challenged the collaboration model at once when we started working, and we asked the CIOs, will you provide people to participate in these 2 expert groups? That was easy. People wanted to work there. People wanted to collaborate in these expert groups. When we asked for people or resources to work in the project groups, that was not so easy. So it was harder for even this is the shared funding model that we are trying out there, because UHC in itself has no money. There's no money in it. If we are going to do anything, we have to have resources from these 4 IT departments. And as long as we don't have that, they have to chip in with resources, and they are actually positive to doing that. But when it was serious, when they knew how many hours they had to put in and maybe how much money they had to spend on it, it was not that easy. So I'm just to illustrate how we challenged the collaboration model at once and how we want it to work. And now we'll talk a little bit about the challenges. I really actually want to talk about the opportunities most, but let me say a little bit about the challenges first. And I'm sure you all anticipate the challenges. You know what will be the challenge here, but I want to mention it anyway, because of course this collaboration model is challenging. Of course we compete with scarce resources locally. People were dedicated to the project, but their job at home, at their own institution, would always be more important. They would always prioritize work locally, which of course meant that we didn't have the progress in the project that we wanted. The shared funding model, as I told you, it was challenging as well. The wish and the will was there, but the ability sort of was a problematic. I'll just one story to show you how this can work out. We had decided in the work in UHC that we were going to recommend going for a commercial infrastructure service, to establish that one as the infrastructure service where we wanted to put our services to the community. We wanted to use a framework agreement that was procured by Nordnet for this. And this was not new to the steering group, which is the CIOs. They knew about the work that we had done. They knew about everything that we had planned to do. So when we came to the meeting and they were going to decide, yes, let's go for this solution with the infrastructure service from that commercial vendor, they turned on us and they said, no, we want to do this ourselves. And they did that when they saw the amount of money that they had to chip in to build this commercial service. And they didn't have the money. They did have the money. They did want to do this. They even had the resources, people to work on it. But they'd rather put the money into a solution that they built on their own premises, on their own facilities, with their own people, with their own resources. So they wanted to use the money on themselves and then build this infrastructure service and provide that for the community. So you see, we need to look at the governance model. We need to, because you see the governance model is also very challenging. And if I look at this, this is the actor map for UHC. And in the middle there, the blue rectangle, that's UHC. UHC is going to be a cloud service broker. We're going to aggregate, and we're going to integrate, and we're going to adjust and deliver cloud services to the community. The CIOs and the CEO of Uninet is in the steering group, the decision makers on what UHC is going to do. But they have other roles. They are also providers, because they have services locally that they can deliver to the community. And also they are consumers. So they have different roles, and that might affect how they are deciding things. And maybe we should look into how we work on that. I will just go to opportunities, because you said 5 minutes now, which is this one. I see that we have some side effects of the work that we are doing that is actually very positive for us and that we did not foresee. And that's where the opportunities often come in innovation. And that is, yeah, they turned on me and chose a completely different solution for the infrastructure service, these CIOs. And that was a surprise. But on the other hand, now they are building a climate between these 4 universities for collaboration between them. And this is new to them. They haven't had this collaboration before. And now they are collaborating, and really collaborating. And they have to take this collaboration to the next level when they are going to commercialize their service. Then they have to build a common way of delivering services, of supporting services, and the payment model. So I think we are now more ready to do a collaboration also on the higher levels, not only on technical levels. And I think that's very good for our work in UOSHI. Another example is that we want to build a cloud service portfolio, and we want to build it fast, and we want to have lots of services in there. And we want to start with a few services just to show the potential to the community. Now the CIOs, they're telling me, yeah, let's build this portfolio fast. Let's take the services that we are already delivering, that we already have and are delivering to our institutions. And I'm thinking, well, I thought we were going to deliver cloud services, and those are not cloud services, so why are we going to do that? But they still, they want to do that, and I'm thinking, yeah, maybe that's maybe that's smart, because then we show the potential, and then we collaborate, and then we have something that, again, is sort of a building stone for what we're going to do in the future. And I have to tell you, I have focused a little bit now on the problems and challenges, but the stakeholders, the CIOs and UNINET, they really, really want to do this. I see them as very positive to the whole idea, and they're really behind it. And of course, there are bumps in the road, as there is with everything. But I really think that we have enough support behind this initiative. And we have the window of opportunity, which is now to do this. So I think we just should keep up the good work, especially within the projects and the process that we have started. We need to work a little bit on the common governance model, as I told you, because there are different roles, different hats, and who are you when you are deciding whether we do that or whether we do that. So we need to work on that. And I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, because in a couple of weeks the Norwegian government is publishing the budget for 2015, and I really, really hope in there we will see UNINET, we will see UOSHI, and we will see a large sum of funding for the next years. Then we will really speed up the work in UOSHI. I'm finished, thank you. I really speeded up here now. Questions?
Yeah, Walter Schmidt, Finnish Meteorological Institute. I have a question to a rather critical aspect you mentioned shortly, and that is the aspect of legal and security part. Did you find any conceptual solution to these two areas? The legal part being mainly to make sure that unauthorized persons or institutes don't get access to information stored in the same system they're not entitled to.
Yeah, no, that's not actually the part that we have worked on most. It's more the data protection and data processing and all these kinds of things in the standard agreements from the vendors. That has been the focus. What you're mentioning here is, it's a question of isolating, and we are, building a private cloud now in the beginning.
Jean-Philippe Erard from Belnet. Still about the expert group legal and security, and also a little about the portfolio project. I would say information. I'm really looking forward seeing some data that comes from it. So it could be a report or whatever. But I would like to know if UNINET is ready to share with Belnet, for example. And if it's possible to share, for example, reports, or if we want to share our expertise together, I guess it could be useful for either of us. So,
yeah, of course, always interested in sharing, always, and We've done a lot of work, and I think you can find the report that I referred to here at our webpage. And in Norway, it's actually referred to often when these issues are talked about for some reason. And we made this report in 2012. And still people are looking at that report to see, you know, what kind of challenges you have. So yeah, we're always open. Just contact me and I'll give you names of people working on these things. This is one of them coming in here.
I'm afraid I came in a little late, so you may have mentioned this in the beginning, but do you have any collaboration with the DN3+ cloud activities?
Yeah, I do. Of course we do. I'm participating in the DN3+ SA7, which is, you know, support to clouds, which is now supply chain, because we also added this adoption thing at the end. So yes, we're working in that. I'm participating in the task 3, which is cloud service brokerage and vendor management. And we want to use whatever is produced in that project, of course, in our work. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Christine.
Okay.
We will take now a step further about the community collaboration and innovative collaboration, and we move into a larger area to Europe. Our next speaker is Michael Enrico. He is the Chief Technical Officer of Dante, and he is also the Joint Research Activities and Tech Coordinator for the GEON project. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Not being familiar Mac user, I'm just trying to find the desktop. Okay. Splendid, thank you very much. Right, so good morning everybody. We're still just before midday. So as you heard, I'm from Dante, CTO at Dante. And my original abstract for this talk was really to talk about the innovation engine in the GEON project, which we call the GEON's Innovation Programme. But the programme committee here asked me to diversify a little bit and cover 2 other areas as well, which is interaction with the other e-infrastructures funded by the European Commission and the very large Future Internet Programme. So I have a sort of role within the project to champion that interaction, and so I'm very pleased to do this. So my talk is more or less in 3 parts. I shall talk about the innovation program in the GEON project. I shall skip all the GEON introductory stuff because you probably know all of that, and Dorte covered some of it yesterday. So I'll go straight into the innovation program, and I'll talk about how we're working with the other e-infrastructures, then the future internet, and then draw a few conclusions. So like I said, I want to skip this. You should know it all, I guess, hopefully. And you may have heard some of it yesterday. And instead I want to focus on what we call this innovation program. So here is the structure of the GEON, the current version of the GEON project, with all its service activities, research activities, and networking activities. But I shall focus on these 3 joint research activities together with our open call program. We refer to this as the GEON Innovation Program. I also would like to add a number of other elements to this. So first of all, the fact that we have a number of test beds we support in the project. Something that was previously called the Open Flow Facility, the GEON Open Flow Facility, which has been taken over by one of the service activities in the project, which is run by Jerry Sobieski from Nordunet, and they've developed something called the GEON Test Bed Service. This is a sliceable test bed service available across much the network footprint. Previously it was called TAS, Test Bed as a Service. If we add to that the fact that there has been and there is an increasing amount of engagement with standards bodies by work done within the project, and this is very good. I mean, this is to be encouraged. This is, if you think about it, this is work with the which has been taken to the IETF. Other standards bodies like the Open Grid Forum, and there's been a meeting here at this event on the NSI. This is the Network Services Interface development in that body. And finally, something which is happening a little bit more, and I'll be pleased to see more of this, is that we take some of the work that goes on, some of the innovation that goes on in the GEONT program, and take it into the open source development communities. So there's some options, there's some possibilities for this, which I'll touch on a bit later. So briefly, on those 3 joint research activities, so the first of those is called Network Architectures for Horizon 2020. It's led by Tony Breach from NordUnet. In previous incarnations of this project, this focused on network technologies. Nowadays, it focuses on producing architectural proposals for how the network may look some years in the future. So they have a couple of tasks here which are focused on particular service areas, supporting cloud service, supporting mobility, and then there's a task looking at generic network architectures. And the idea is that these then produce, if you like, a set of possible network architectures that could be adopted in the future. And we combine this with some of the inputs from the open calls I'll talk about in a moment. One of the outputs from this piece of work is something which is called the concept of the Open Cloud Exchange that you may have heard about. This is a bit like an internet exchange on steroids, in which there is an infrastructure in place which implements a trusted third-party mechanism for dynamically establishing peering relationships through that open cloud exchange. So that's one example of the outputs from one of the from this particular research activity. So the second one I showed you before was JRA2. This is called Technology Testing for Specific Service Applications. This is led by Aphrodite Savasti from GRNet. And the whole point about this really is to rethink how resources and services are delivered and planned for the future. So this is where a lot of the evaluation of software-defined networking, network programmability, the concept of network as a service, management as a service. This is where people look at this and think, okay, how can we then come up with some novel services beyond just the provision of fat pipes, which NRENs are very familiar with, and with various applications, as you can see here, things like green networking, content delivery networking, distributed security services, and delivery of testbed services as well. So that's in a nutshell, that's the work going on in JRA2, and as with all of these, of course, it's in order to support the innovation in the project. Then there's the joint research activity number 3 that I mentioned before. So this is where a lot of our identity and trust research and development goes on. So this is led by, it's been led by, over the last year or so, by a number of people. Licia Florio, mainly from Terena, Remco Portinger from SurfNet, and Stefan Winter from Vestina. So this is this part of the stable that's produced a lot of the development, the research and development that goes into our AAI type services, and you can see listed here the key themes such as research into attribute management, work on identity and trust standardization thereof, things like supporting higher levels of assurance and providing support for identity provision service support tools there. So from previous versions of this activity is where all the well-known services like EduRoam, EduGain have come from and continue to be progressed. So in addition to these 3 joint research activities, we have the GEONT Open Call. So the GEONT Open Call is the first time we've run an open call in the GEONT project. Essentially, along with many other EC-funded projects like those you see under the FIRE and FIPPP initiatives that I'll come on to later on, we are kind of required by the Commission to run these open calls. So in the current GN3 Plus project, as it's called, there was a requirement that 50% of the research and technology development work had to be delivered through an open call process. So that amounts to a budget of about 3.3 million euros of EC funds. When you add in the fact that it's co-funded, then that came to a total of about 4.5 million. So this was an open call for new partners, new collaborators, new ideas to be brought into the project. Any eligible European entity could apply. And when we set out on this, because GN3+ was only a 2-year project, we were envisaging 18-month projects with budgets of about between 100,000 and 350,000 euros. So we structured it as follows. So we had 3 broad areas. First of all, the first one here was essentially soliciting users for the infrastructure we have in the network. So this is, and examples of this were spare fiber, so soliciting proposals for optical projects that could make use of spare dark fiber that we had, soliciting projects that would make use of our testbed facilities, the Géant OpenFlow facility I mentioned, and also soliciting projects that might make use of our bandwidth on demand capabilities. So that was soliciting uses of the infrastructure as it is today. Then there was this set here, which is essentially the JRAs I just mentioned, the joint research activities, outsourcing some of the ideas that they had. So these were quite well defined in the call. Broadly speaking, you can see some of the categories, some of the ideas were put up here, and broadly speaking, they follow the 3 joint research activities you have there. And some of the ideas, for example, around content delivery, networking capabilities, alien waves, research effort into alien waves, and then down at the bottom there, a whole series of pieces of work around identity and trust. So that was a kind of form of outsourcing. And then finally, the third group was essentially a wild card. So this was, although obviously we specified that it had to be of relevance to the research and education networking community, essentially the floor was open, and we were there as seeing which innovative proposals might come out of the left field, and we were looking to plan to finance up to 5 small projects there. So by and large, this was oversubscribed by a factor of more than 3 to 1. The outcome was that we had a whole load of new partners come into the project. Essentially 30 new partners had to be integrated into the project, which was quite hard work, by the way. We funded 21 of these mini projects with 439 man-months of effort. In the middle block there, you can see a whole load of organizations that have been added. They are mainly research centers and universities in that long list there. Some of the NRENs were there as well, because they could take part, they could become members of the consortia that bid for this money. And then there were a few, not as many as we might have liked, a few commercial entities you can see down there on the right, the biggest of which was Telefonica IND. That picture there is Telefonica's HQ in Madrid. So those are the new partners we brought in. What about the projects? Okay, well, they're essentially the projects we classified into 4 areas. The first one, applications and tools. So this was essentially a range of activities designed to investigate how the Géant network could support advanced research activities and projects. So there were 4 here. I'd like to, I can't talk about all of them in detail, there's 21 of them, but I would like to highlight a couple. ARES is quite an interesting one. This is from the University of Perugia, because this is essentially researching an advanced content delivery network service that makes use of IETF standard signaling protocols to set up a content delivery network on the fly, and this is actually addressing a particular sectoral area as well. This is genomic data. So this was presented at TNC this year and went down quite well. Quite a technically interesting project. NSI contest I've highlighted because that was covered here in the session yesterday by Bartek Belter from PSNC. So that's a set of some software for testing implementations of the network service interface protocol. Second area, these are the authentication ones. So there's 6 projects here which are related to our JRA on AAI technologies, and yeah, Yep, an interesting set of proposals there. In the middle there, there's one called MEAL, which is quite interesting. So MEAL is about multi-domain eduroam over LTE infrastructure. So this is, if you like, taking a proof of concept in the UK by Janet participating in this, and SurfNet for the Netherlands. It's been quite difficult to get that one off the ground, but now it's making some interesting progress. And so those, hopefully, some of the results, we anticipate that quite a few of the results from these 6 open call projects will be adopted in our work, in our AAI services in the future. Next area, network architectures and optical projects. So this is mainly optical projects. The top one, Coffee, is about a terabit transmission field trial. The one below it, ICOF, is about international clock comparison. This is disseminating accurate clock synchronization signals across the fiber network. In the middle there's one on investigating RENA. This is the recursive internet architecture as a possible new networking protocol to be adopted in the future. So that's that section. And finally, there's the software-defined networking set of projects. So here we have a whole load here. I'll highlight the one here called COCO, because Ronald van der Pol from SurfNet is driving this one. But the reason I've highlighted it is because earlier on I mentioned about opportunities to take some of the output from the Géant Innovation Programme and take it into open source development activities. And this is a good example. So Ronald has now got some nice some possibilities to work with the Open Daylight community, and I think this will be a good thing really for the Géant project to make a lot more of delivering some of the outputs and contributing them to sort of serious open source development activities. Okay, so I've gone through the Géant Innovation Programme. Now, let me see if I'm on schedule here. Yes, I am. Good. So now I want to talk about how in the Géant Programme we're working with other e-infrastructures. So Géant is an e-infrastructure, but it comes from a stable in which there are other e-infrastructures, of which you will have heard already. So the 3 big ones at the European level I want to mention briefly are EGI, Price and UDAT. The diagram in the bottom right there just shows you which part of the Commission they're all funded out of. So this is the e-infrastructures unit in the relevant directorate in DG Connect. So it just goes to show that we are all essentially part of the same family. So briefly, EGI is the European grid infrastructure. It's about delivering integrated grid and cloud computing services to European researchers. The link there shows many of the case studies that they like to talk about. So EGI is coordinated by a not-for-profit foundation, EGI.eu, which has been created to manage the infrastructure. And this is done on behalf of the national grid initiatives and big research organizations like CERN, the European Molecular Biology Laboratory. So the audience for the EGI is the European research area, so the large research infrastructures and smaller scientists as in the long tail, as it says here. And the solution portfolio they offer, federated cloud type services, a high throughput data analysis, and a federated operations of those distributed resources. So that's EGI. In a couple of slides. Onto the next one I showed there, which was EUDAT. This is all about data services, tools, and knowledge. So all the research infrastructures, as we know, are facing this data deluge and are looking for and need ways of managing this data in a coherent manner, where to store that data, how to handle it, how to make the most of it. Now, many of these research communities are developing their own solutions, that this is good, but we need to make sure that those work together, and this is the mission of EUDAT. So they provide a set of services to help the research infrastructures manage their growing data, to provide these services across communities to ensure the minimum level of interoperability. Does that really mean minimum? Maximum, surely. And EUDAT also helped to bring data and computing together. So there's a number of services that they provide here which cover access and deposit, informal data exchange, sharing, to long-term archiving and identification and discoverability and computability of data in the long tail and big data users, as I mentioned before. And really, this is all about servicing the full life cycle of research data. So there's a set of services, the B2 services you can see here, listed there. And by and large, access to EUDAT services are free at the point of use, where peer-to-peer agreements are in place for larger capacities, and there is a pay-per-use model as an option. And then the third of those e-infrastructures that many people will have heard of is PRACE. So this is a sort of federated European high-performance computing research infrastructure. So it's designed to provide access to HPC services, and it's designed to operate as a single entity to give access to world-class supercomputers, attract and retain the relevant competencies within that e-infrastructure, and to lead the integration of those into a larger high-performance computing ecosystem. So there's a few facts and figures down here on the right, referencing, for example, the number of supercomputers, 6 supercomputers in 4 hosting countries, the number of petaflops, 15 petaflops available. And you can see there, for example, white papers produce theses that have been identified as being produced by dint of having access to this e-infrastructure. 5, okay. So the network has been supporting this e-infrastructure for some years now with connectivity. There is some evidence of a bit of a disconnect here. So recently, this PRACE have been doing a lot of work with IPsec tunnels. So clearly, we have to sort of work a little bit more closely with them. So this is the point I wanted to make here, really, that essentially there has been some good cooperation between the e-infrastructures to date, but there's always room for improvement. And this is actually going on as we speak. So this week, the Research Data Alliance has its 4th plenary meeting, and there's an EUDAT conference as well, so some people from the GEON project are there. And tomorrow and on Friday, there's a joint EGI-GEON cloud workshop in Amsterdam. And also, there is a coordination and support action which has been proposed in the recent e-infrastructure call. So although obviously that's not yet funded, but if it does get funded, this will really deliver an unprecedented level of cooperation amongst the e-infrastructures. So this can only really be a benefit to the research infrastructures. And increasingly in the future, there is a push from the Commission for these e-infrastructures to be made available to SME clusters as well. So more on that later. Okay, working with the future internet. So 3 broad areas here. So on the bottom axis here, we have sort of an indication of time to market for this work, and on the top axis there, technology risk. So the competitive and innovation framework part of the Future Internet program is things like smart cities. So you might have heard of Smart Santander, for example, where sensor networks have been placed in cities, and then data is made available for researchers of clever apps that might make use of this. Then there's the FIPPP and the FIRE. So I want to talk a little bit more about those 2 parts of the Future Internet. First of all, FIRE. So this is about test beds that network researchers can gain access to. Some of these test beds are very technology specific, and you can see all the projects listed down there. So for example, CREW and FLEX are about radio networks. There's a bonfire, which is about cloud computing infrastructure, Ophelia about open flow technology, and then there's an activity called Fed for Fire, which some people from Dante are involved in, which is about federating those. Then there's the Future Internet PPP element to this. So this is a bit more populated by commercial entities. So the goal here is to capture business opportunities derived from what they call a new wave of digitalization of life and business. So the center of this is something called Fireware, which is a set of APIs which has been developed by developed by the Fireware project, which are there to sort of try and support access to center networks, access to cloud services, data handling, network control, and so on. That's the Fireware component. The FiLab component is essentially a testbed infrastructure, making this available to application developers, and a project called Xi-Fi has been delivering that. And then there's a whole set of domain-specific projects, the petals around this flower here, in certain areas, smart energy, e-health, and so on. So the whole set of projects which generally have FI in the title. So this is a picture of the infrastructure that's been set up. This is the so-called FiLab. This is a cloud-based infrastructure supporting these Fireware interfaces, these Fireware APIs, which are sometimes known as generic enablers. So you can see here a few facts and figures about this. Okay, time is pushing, so what I wanted to do, and I'm going to skip this slide as well, what I wanted to show here is that essentially the Xeon community has been supporting this for a while now, and there's good reason for this. So the NREN stakeholders are major players in these future internet-related activities. So 60% are in FIRE, and less so in the FIPPP, where about a third of the participants are NREN stakeholders. And in the past, there have been some criticisms around the fact that the Xeon community doesn't necessarily from the FI community about access to network services, but there are now efforts underway to try and harmonise policies to try and improve that. There's a list of features here, so essentially encouraging NRENs to maybe revise AUPs where necessary to be able to provide the R&D arms of the commercial entities involved in these projects with the same kind of services as their regular customers might get, and we are developing, we are involved in proactive business development targeting the FI community. So, my last slide. Essentially, this is a vast topic to try and summarize in 25 minutes. However, what I want to show really is that the scope for innovation abounds in European ICT and e-infrastructure projects, including the Xeon project. So our own innovation program has really been delivering some good results, and an example of this is something like 20 papers in peer-reviewed journals are now in the pipeline coming out of those open call projects. And I'd like to highlight again this notion that we should take advantage of the opportunities to take our stuff and take our outputs and put them into open source initiatives like Open Daylight. So really we're entering an unprecedented period of collaboration amongst the e-infrastructures, as I already mentioned with the E4 ERA proposal, and closer ties are being made with the Future Internet program. So for example, their next call, as with the last one, the next fire call, as with the last one, necessitates use of the Xeon infrastructure. So with that, I shall thank you for your attention and take any questions.
Hello, Heidi Berghoff, UNINET. I've noticed you had a number of test beds, and you also talked about the FiLab Innovation Laboratory being produced. I wonder if the requirements of the test beds are specific to their particular area, or is there ability to reuse these test beds that you're creating, and is that in fact some of the functionality within the FiLab? Is
this in the FIPPP or the FIRE part of the Future Internet program? Because essentially in FIRE there are in principle they're open access, and at this stage, the access to the FIPPP part of this is the Phi Lab, is open access as well. In fact, they are encouraging developers of future internet applications to make use of it. And I didn't have time to talk about a program they've just launched last week, which is the Phiware accelerators. So money's been made available to encourage anybody and everybody who has got a bright idea, who wants to develop some sort of application, for example, that can make use of this Phiware infrastructure. So grants will be made available to that. It's a bit like seed funding, but without the necessity to hand over any of your equity, for example.
But do you see significant reuse among the different test beds?
Not as much as there should be. The simple answer to that.
So our next speaker will take the innovation to a global level, to a global scale. Our next speaker is Peter Hinrich from SurfNet. He is the community research manager at SurfNet, and he's responsible for the relations with the Dutch research community. Peter is also collaborating with other NRENs and e-infrastructure providers to coordinate the Enlighten Your Research program. Peter, here is the stage.
Okay, well, thank you, Junji, for your introduction. So today I would like to tell you about Enlighten Your Research Global, which is a program enabling international data-intensive science. And it's also an opportunity for NRENs to improve their collaboration in the delivery of services that makes this possible. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Enlighten Your Research, I will first start with a brief introduction and a history. It started in 2007 in the Netherlands, and the years before SurfNet launched a new service to our constituency, static light paths. And this service was quickly adopted by our institutes to connect their remote locations. However, the awareness of the service among the research community was very low, and therefore we started a contest in which researchers could win the use of a light path. The contest was a success. And 2 years later, there was another contest aimed on the use of dynamic light paths, which we call now today bandwidth on demand. The third competition we organized in the Netherlands was on the combined use of several e-infrastructure resources, such as the network in combination with storage and compute. A fourth contest in the Netherlands is going on, and in 2013 we started in collaboration with other NRENs a global edition of Enlighten Your Research. So in all these contests we learned a lot of lessons, but one important lesson was that research is truly global, and that the requirements for data sharing are increasing, especially when data sharing is across the boundaries of countries. Researchers find it very difficult to organize this, and we think that NRENs can help to bridge this increasing gap. But in order to do so, NRENs should collaborate better to serve our users. So to make this possible, 5 NRENs collaborated and joined forces and started the Enlighten Your Research Global program in 2013. These NRENs were ESNet, Internet2, Janet, FUNet and SurfNet. Later on, 4 other NRENs joined the program to support the institutes in their constituency who participated in the competition. Those were RNP, ARNet, DFN and JEAN. The objectives of the program were to enhance the awareness and to stimulate the services of our NRENs. And we wanted to do so by selecting appealing research projects to implement the necessary infrastructure and to support the researchers and their ICT departments. Another objective was by collaborating with each other to improve our procedures and to deliver the services over multi-domains and end-to-end. The program itself consisted of a lightweight procedure in which researchers could submit a draft proposal describing their research plan and how they would use the global e-infrastructure. The selection was in a two-phase process. After submitting a draft proposal, experts and engineers from the NRENs would consult the proposals, and in this consultation round we discussed the use of the e-infrastructure, the requirements, and it was also a good opportunity to check the commitment of all parties and whether the expectation level on all sides were equal. Finally, after submitting the final and improved proposals, 4 winning proposals were selected and announced at Supercomputing 2013 in Denver last year. The researchers that were awarded got the use of the requested network resources for the period of at least 1 year, including the network support on it. They also got good PR opportunities through our associated organizations. There were no direct financial rewards involved. So what did we as NRENs got out of this? Well, we also got good PR opportunities. We can raise the network awareness among the research community by using the good practices and to prove the added value of network services. And by collaborating not only with the researchers but also with their ICT departments, we got better community engagement. And finally, the coordination between the NRENs in delivering the services, we could improve our mutual communication and the procedures. So, as I already told, 4 proposals were selected and announced at Supercomputing 2013. And one of these was from the bioinformatics. There were 2 climate projects and 1 from biophysics and neurosciences. In total, 6 countries were involved. These were the US, the UK, Finland, Netherlands, Australia, and Germany. And now I will tell you something about the winning proposals. The first one is cross-site virtual machine operation. This project is part of the S3 Elixir project, and it's led by David van Enkevoort from the University Medical Center in Groningen. Their project goal is to combine virtual machines at different sites, especially in the Netherlands and in Finland, and combine them and let them operate on data from DNA sequencing, which may be located in either the Netherlands, in Finland, or at the EMBL-EBI archive in the UK. They requested 1 gigabit per second light paths, and the countries involved were Finland, the Netherlands, and UK. The current status of this project is that there is a dedicated IP connection between the EBI and CSC, which was already there, so that was easy to do. Recently, also, bandwidth on-demand connections were implemented between the 2 locations in the Netherlands, the UMC Groningen and Surfsara, and CSC in Helsinki. This was done by using the interdomain international bandwidth on-demand service using NSI protocol. At this moment, the users are implementing the architecture for cross-site virtual machine operations, and they're working on using and implementing the NSI API in their software. The second project I want to explain is International Networking for Climate. This project is led by Dean Williams from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in the US. Their ambition is to provide 8 gigabit per second throughput over IP between 5 international data replication sites. This data replication will be used for an important report from IPCC, which will be produced in 2015. The countries involved are the US, UK, Australia, Netherlands, and Germany. The status of this project is that where necessary, the IP connections to the local NRNs are upgraded to 10 gigabits per second at least, and that perf sonar has been implemented on all sites to do performance monitoring. At the moment they are discussing which tools will be selected and implemented for the high-speed data transfer among these sites. Another project, which is also from Climate Sciences, takes a very different approach. It's Advanced Distributed Computing approach to high-resolution climate modeling. This project is led by Henk Dijkstra from the Institute of Marine and Atmospheric Research of the University of Utrecht in the Netherlands. And his approach is to run ultra-high-resolution climate simulations using supercomputers in different countries at the same time. Current climate models use a granularity of about 100 square kilometers per grid point. And their goal is to reduce this to ultimately 1 square kilometer per grid point. So phenomena which are now too small to be taken into account in current models will be possible to take into account, which gives, of course, better climate predictions. The countries involved are Germany, the Netherlands, UK, and the US. The current status of this project is that there is a 10 gigabit per second dedicated path between the Cartesius supercomputer in the Netherlands and the Stampede at TACC in the US. For this, the ANA 100 gig transatlantic connection is used. The end-to-end performance tests on the system level have finished, and the tuning of the program to the software to really get the 10 gigabits throughput on system level has been finished. And the connections to the other supercomputers will be implemented in the next phase, because supercomputer time is expensive and difficult to get. They will first try the distributed simulation on these two, and later on we will extend the project to the other supercomputers. Finally, a project with a very long name, which I didn't come up with, but basically it's behavior analysis of nematodes, small worms, with advanced computing and networking tools. It's from neuroscience and biophysics, and it's led by Stephen Helms. Stephen is an American researcher who is currently working at the FOM Institute Amulf in the Netherlands. And he and his fellow researchers at Virginia Commonwealth University are studying the behavior of nematodes, which are small worms. And the nervous system is very well known for these creatures. So by monitoring their behavior and their neuron activity, they hope to learn something about the working of the human brain. They do this with high-speed, high-resolution cameras, which produce very large amounts of data. And this data has to be inter-exchanged between the two sites in the Netherlands and the United States. The current status of this project is that the connectivity between AMOLF and VCU has been implemented end-to-end, and that grid storage for high-speed data transfer has been provisioned. They have also adapted their software. They used to use MATLAB for it, but they rewritten the code to Python so that the software can be used without bothering about licensing on all locations, and can expand the project later to different sites. So finalizing the results of these two projects, we can say that all necessary network resources at this moment, which are requested at this moment, are implemented, and that scientific work is still in progress. So results on that area cannot be expected at this moment. But we can do see that experiments with new concepts already have started, and that operational use of inter-domain bandwidth service using NSI in Europe has started. We have also started with our outreach efforts to the community. As Enlighten Your Research program, we have a website, we use social media, and there's a mailing list. And we have started to target this outreach to our communities. In the Netherlands, it means that we are working on the best practices of these projects, and that already some articles have appeared in Dutch magazines about, in this case, the climate project of Henk Dijkstra. The mailing address of the program and the Twitter account I've put there for you on the slide. The lessons we have learned are many. I would like to share some of them with you. But a very important one is that researchers are in general, not very good ICT project managers, which is not a very good thing if you are dealing with complex international projects. A lot of the work has to be done in the local domain, not only implementing, but also the coordination, what kind of protocols have to be used, and agreements have to be made on all sides to use the same approach. Another thing is that it's not very common that researchers have very good contacts or communication with their own ICT departments. There we could help as NRENS, since we have good operational contacts with ICT departments. So bringing together researchers and their own departments works really well. And as I just said, it's not enough to just focus on delivering a network service. You really have to take into account the whole architecture, the bigger picture, and tune the network to the higher layers. And of course, commitment from all involved domains is very important. Well, some conclusions. The role of NRENS is crucial, not only to provide the necessary network resources, but also to bring people together. As I said, researchers and ICT departments, but also ICT departments from different institutions. And collaborations between NRENS is important to successfully deliver the services. And of course, collaboration between NRENS and other national cyber infrastructures is very necessary, since the network by itself is only valuable if it's connected to the other resources on the edges. And if you want to give support to your community, you have to have some sort of support team to do this. But if you set up a support team, you have to do this in a way that it is scalable. And how we have done this in the Netherlands, I will tell you in the next few slides. In this slide, you see the number of researchers on the horizontal axis and the amount of support they get on the vertical axis. On the left-hand side, you see the projects like Enlighten Your Research, but also our other high-end projects and partnerships in which we collaborate with researchers to develop new services. There are only a limited number of these projects, and they get a large amount of support per user. On the right-hand side, you see the vast majority of researchers to which we can only provide a limited amount of support. Of course, we do that by our website, producing best practices and documentations and instructions. But if you want to reach out to them well, you have to make use of the ICT departments of the institutes and collaborate with them. So in the Netherlands, we have started a program, Support for Research, in which we work closely together with ICT departments, and we have recognized that a number of universities already have started their own research support groups. The Support for Research program consists of two activities. On the one hand, we have outreach, on the other hand, support. In outreach, we produce best practices and documentations, We organize on-site events for ICT staff and researchers, and we facilitate community building between the ICT departments. And in addition, we collaborate with the National Science Funding Agency to introduce ICT chapter in funding proposals. This so to enforce researchers to think about how to use ICT in their research. On the support side, I already told we collaborate with ICT departments, and we have support teams to deal with ICT departments, and we are starting to set up a support for research training program. We do this in collaboration with other entities in the Netherlands eScience Center, and the National Supercomputing Center SURF-SARA, which a few years ago merged into SURF and is a sister company of SURFnet. Furthermore, we coordinate between NREN's supercomputer and eScience centers, and we have produced a single email address for all questions and support for the whole national e-infrastructure in the Netherlands. So a quick outlook to the future. There is some thoughts about next edition of Enlighten Your Research, but it's not decided yet how and in which shape it will be organized. So if any one of you is interested in more information about Enlighten Your Research, or maybe even participating in the next edition, feel free to contact me or one of the other NRENs participating. And with this, I would like to thank the other Enlighten Your Research global partners and affiliate partners for their contribution to the program and to this presentation. I would also like to thank Nordunet, because although formally no partner in the project, they've done a lot of work to make the BOD connections between the Netherlands and Finland possible. And I would like to thank you for your attention. Are there any questions?
Hi, I would like to ask actually what kind of resources was provided for the researchers? It was mainly compute resources and then place to it they can store the data, or it was the storage and computation was combined? So it kind of so they can produce where the data is actually located.
In the global program, the NRENs only provided the international network, also national. They only provided network resources. The additional resources they came up with themselves. This was one of the things we checked in the consultation phase to check whether they really had access to these resources. For instance, use of a supercomputer is not very easy. You have to have other programs for that. And well, that we wanted to make sure. In the Netherlands, however, since we are integrated with the National Supercomputer Center, we can it's more easy for us to start a program in which network and grid or storage resources can be made available in one package.
Thank you.
Peter, I was wondering, how did you make the commitment for the necessary commitment for the institutions and ICT departments?
We did that in the consultation phase, and we the draft proposals. In the draft proposal, it was requested to give contact persons and the institutes who were participating in the proposal. And whether at some times these persons were not familiar to us, and we contact our operational contacts to check whether these were the real right persons in charge of giving commitment for the resources. But it is an important thing that when you're not very familiar with some institute, or with very large institutes, it becomes more difficult. The more familiar, the more well-known you are with an institute, the more easier it is to check this commitment.
So if no more questions, then thank you, Peter, for your presentation. And I would like to also thank you for your attention. And there is one last announcement before the end of the session, and that's about tonight. Tonight is the gala dinner, and that will be in the Uppsala Castle from 7:30. And if you have signed up yesterday for the buses, then the buses will be leaving either from the Clarion and Scandic Hotel at 7:10, or from here at the venue at 7:20. So enjoy your lunch and have a good discussion. Thank you.